Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat. And this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
All right, you guys, welcome back. This is your girl, Moni.
And this is Kat.
And this is the Fake Ass Book Club, guys. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Yeah.
I'm going to be so calm this episode. You don't even know. Kat, for those who don't know, tends to get a little fired up sometime. And this is a fiery episode. This is a fiery topic. So I'm going to maintain a Vulcan-like calm. So no one be afraid. I'm not on Quaaludes. I'm just calm.
We'll see how we are 30 minutes in front, okay? But I love that I love that that's the ethos right now. You're out here trying to make sure that you keep it together. You guys, this is the Wednesday after Inauguration Day. So this is like, we're in the past right now talking about the future. So we haven't actually experienced it, but, and it's Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's not right now. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, it's not. But we're coming right after that, and we picked our topic based on that because we just felt like we needed something to help us feel hopeful, right? Like I do feel like with the new administration coming in, the new old administration, I know personally I have my own fifis about this. Like this is definitely feeling.
Well, let's hear about your feelings, Moni. What are your primary feelings around the next 4 years?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is sort of there's disbelief associated with where I am because you would think after the 4 years we had during COVID with Trump would be enough, but it wasn't. And so here we are again. So it feels like a bad dream. It feels like that dream you keep having over and over again. And you're like, this isn't done, So there's that. But then there's also this sense of like, I'm out. I refuse. Okay.
Like Master P, it ain't my fault.
It ain't my fault. I did what I could do. And also I wish everybody,
You did do what you could do, and thank you.
I did. Thank you.
You did.
It didn't stop anything, but I also feel like, at the end of the day, I hope everybody gets what they want in this situation. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like,
I'm sorry, I just started thinking about Wicked. I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy now. I hope you're happy. How you'd grovel in submission to feed your own ambition. I hope you're happy.
that.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope. So that's where I'm at. What about you?
Although I can't imagine how, I hope you're happy, right? I'm lightweight in denial a little bit.
Okay,
I'm contemplating man, I would like to move. I mostly just feel bad, mostly disappointed because the country I live in would rather be ruled by a crapist than a black lady.
Yeah.
Who never craped anybody.
No. And here we are.
And here we are.
So you guys, with that, I want to introduce the topic this week. So we decided to review the book, We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance by Kellie Carter Jackson. So I'm going to give you guys a little synopsis here. Published by Seal Press on June the 4th, 2024, it's a 304-page book. This powerful work explores the spectrum of Black resistance to white supremacy throughout history, challenging the traditional dichotomy of nonviolent versus violent responses. Carter Jackson argues that dismissing forms of Black resistance labeled as violent perpetuates white supremacy and obscures a broader, often violent, structural racism against which these acts push back. The book highlights a pivotal role of Black women in leading resistance efforts and examines a variety of methods, from armed revolt and property destruction to the quieter forms of resilience, such as finding joy and walking away. Combining historical analysis with personal and cultural insight, Carter Jackson reframes resistance as a fundamental component of Black liberation struggle and offers a hopeful path toward justice and resilience.
I like that.
So I just feel like honestly, this is what I needed. I'm glad that you suggested this book because I do feel like starting off the year with a new administration and with just, y'all know what we're up against. We've been here before and we're back here again. And so again, like there's this sense of disbelief in my mind, but also too, this is part of a larger playbook that we've seen before. And I think that it's very important that we sort of, our podcast is really to keep people, in a place of curiosity about their past, their present, and their future. And that's what the arts and media and books and all that kind of stuff does for us. So I'm really excited to explore this work of art. It was a joy. I mean, like I felt a lot of the feelings. So I don't want to, we can get into that, but I'm just excited to get into this book.
I feel like what really drew me to the book was the cover. Yeah. You know how they say you can't judge a book by its cover?
Yes, you can, guys.
I mean, the cover, for people who don't know, actually, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll throw it up right here. And it's a statuesque negress in a white dress holding a double-barreled rifle and the large impact font saying, "We refuse." I'm like, I like it.
And she's got like it's the contrast of her femininity, and not even just like, it's the kind of femininity that I think gets, I don't want to say pushed on us, but it's like she has on this like, corseted white dress with the puffy sleeves, and her hair is like up and coiffed, and she's holding, and her skin is obviously black. Yeah, like it's black skin, and it's like she's in a white dress. She's got this gun. It's just, what a powerful image.
Yeah, we refuse.
I liked it.
And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling that. Actually, I'm going to throw it up again, but this time it's going to be an image of that, but with Michelle Obama's face.
Because she refused. She ain't going to that inauguration, guys. She said, nah, you go ahead, hon. I'll be in Hawaii for my extended vacacione, because I ain't got time for that.
Stay in your struggle.
Yes. So guys, I'm excited to get into it this week. And before we do, let's go ahead and dedicate this episode like we always do. So hands over your hearts, everyone. So as always, you guys, we want to send a special shout out to our patrons. You guys are the best and we love you. Thank you so much for your continued support. Honestly, what's the kid, sweetheart? I don't know. This is the one we've been doing since 2006. I got wedding photos to prove it. This is old. This ain't new.
Yeah.
But also, shout out to you guys. Hopefully you enjoy. I dropped 2. I didn't put anything out for November. I put 2 in for December, but we have more of that bonus content coming for you guys.
Yeah.
There's so much. Honestly, we've got way more to upload. So you guys keep looking out for new episodes there. And I think this week, who I wanted to. There was a couple of things. First, I have 2 dedications. The first one is to my baby mama. Thank you so much. I needed you this week so hard. So first of all, you provided me with some handmade body butters for Christmas that have been keeping me moisturized through this dry and freezing cold winter vortex. Thank you so much. I've been getting my life with that. And also to Bernice King, one of the children of Martin Luther King. I feel like, for Inauguration Day to fall on her dad's special day feels very, I don't know, I hate that for her. But also too, MLK was a very polarizing figure in his day, and now the way we talk about him isn't the way we talked about him, or they talked about him during the time of his
work
impact and work. Yeah, so he was one of the most hated men in America. He was villainized and stuff like that. So to see that, to know that, like as a child, and seeing like the person who you love and idolize being turned into just his legacy being just misused and just disrespected in a way, you know what I'm saying? So my heart goes out to you, but she's a good follow. So if you guys don't follow Bernice King, go on any social media platform, follow her. Shout out to you, love. What about you, friends?
Yes, and to all that, especially that butter, that's been clutch.
My God.
My dedication this week is going out to Costco. Not just for its, products, but the fact that in resistance to their shareholders, they're still continuing their DEI practices. A lot of different companies have given up because they're like, hey, we got our boy in office. We don't have to do any of that inclusivity crap.
Right.
But Costco's like, no, it makes us a better company. Like, it's very silly to not want to have equity and inclusivity and diversity in your organization. And the only reason there are pushes for it that are organized is because most of the structures have been segregationalist and white supremacist. So if you'd like to keep it like that, then yeah, keep fighting DEI, like our governor, Mike Braun, who recently canceled all the DEI government programs because they want to keep it white. I mean, let's just say what it is. Like, they feel like, hey, we're the only ones who know how to run stuff, so let us do it and we'll tell you what to do. And I just don't think that's true. I think no matter what your color or gender expression, there's talent to be had everywhere, and we're stronger for it. You know where I learned it from?
Don't say Star Trek.
But I want to, Moni. Can I say Star Trek, please?
Fine.
Star Trek.
Dedication over. Sick of it.
Staying calm.
Sick of it. And I know you were hype based on that. You were.
I was.
Good job, friend.
God,
okay. Brought it
Kolinar.
back. Okay, so with that in mind, friend, I wonder if you have a little bit about our author today that you could share with our listeners.
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so Kellie Carter Jackson is the Michael and Denise 68 Associate Professor of Africana Studies and the Chair of the Africana Studies Department, Wesleyan College. Wesleyan College? And she is the author of We Refuse, a forceful history of Black resistance. Her essays have been published in the New York Times, Washington Post, Atlantic Guardian, LA Times, Nation, Boston Globe, CNN, and a host of other outlets. She has been featured in numerous documentaries on Netflix. Carter Jackson loves a good podcast and her Radiotopia family. She is executive producer and host of the award-winning You Get a Podcast. Carter Jackson Carter Jackson served as a historian in residence for the Museum of African American History in Boston. And she currently resides outside of Boston with her husband and three children. Also, I always want to put them on the resume.
Awesome. Love that for her.
She's also fabulous.
She's
Can I just
so
say that?
cute.
Like,
I didn't
look
see
her
her
up.
picture.
Like,
She's so cute.
she always gives looks, and I
like
appreciate that
it.
because that takes work.
Love it. So what a meaty book, though. You know what I mean? Like, this book to me, like, so it was so funny because we had a day today. We had lots of going on, and I was maybe like an hour away from being done. So I was able to, while you were napping on my couch, which
Thank you.
I love that for you.
Thank you. I loved it
so
for
awesome.
me too. Thank you. I really needed that. So thanks for letting me rest and feeding
course.
me. And
Yes.
because
nice.
as we discussed, rest is a very important part of resistance.
It is.
Black rest and Black joy.
It's important. It's definitely important, and that was definitely in the book. And you know, I was able to finish listening to the book a little bit before we came down to record, and I was like, man, that was just, I mean, my overall feelings, I'll just share before we kind of get into the specifics, was I really enjoyed this book, and this is, honestly, I needed this. I didn't even know I needed it. And I feel like it's because with a lot of the literature that I do enjoy, like, you know, the last couple episodes, I don't remember if it was the last or it might have been the one before, I mentioned Django, you know, and why, you know, when you have stories like Django where you see these, you see the resistance, you see Black resistance. I think that, like, in terms of what we learn in school or stories that are shared with us, you don't always hear those stories. You know what I mean? Like, these are stories that, like, a lot of the resistance stories are stories that I've heard as a grown adult. Things that because I am somebody who's like, I'm curious about this. I want to read about this. I want to learn about this.
I feel like I heard
I'm getting
zero
stories.
in school.
No, you don't.
I heard about
you don't
George
hear.
Washington Carver and something about peanut butter.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's like Martin Luther King, peanut butter, George
Rosa
Washington Carver,
Parks
and Rosa
sometimes.
Parks. Yeah, not Claudette, not
Claudette Colvin.
Claudette Colvin, not any of that kind of
Too
stuff.
Black and too pregnant.
She was. Hate to see it.
Hate to see it.
Those are things that get in the way sometimes. So yeah, I mean, so my overall feelings for this book was that I loved it. Again, this book is 304 pages. It was published June 4th, 2024. And it's kind of broken down into 5 sections. And so
Did you do the audiobook?
I did the audiobook,
Me
which
too.
was how
It
many
was like
hours?
9 hours maybe.
Yeah, I want to say it was around 9 hours.
It was a shift.
It was a shift. And what I will say, the reason why I still had an hour left was, friend, because I had to keep stopping.
So to me, that was interesting because when I tell you, I was listening to it at work and I powered through. So I'm interested to know what parts, like Moni's referencing her crying. And I'm usually the crier. I didn't even cry.
You didn't cry?
I was mostly just really pissed off. Which is why I'm staying calm because there
were so many parts that made me want to cry.
I wanted to Hulk smash.
Yeah, I felt that as well. There was lots of feelings that came up. I will say that mostly what I felt was proud and grateful. Like, I feel like this book to me was, it's so much of what I have thought about our history personally and hadn't been able to like beautifully orchestrate into this lyrical story and linear story about Black resistance and the different levels of why it's beautiful and why it's important. And why it's something that I want to make sure my kids know about, because, you know, storytelling is something that we do in this podcast and something that we find important. But like, these are stories that get lost sometimes, you know, when we're talking about Black liberation and Black resistance. And it's because it's so politicized, you know, like our sort of
erasure.
It's the erasure, but like just our pursuit of autonomy and like getting, like just being left alone. That's it. That's, you know, we've said this so many times on this show since we've been recording. It's like, for the most part, I mean, of all the Black people I know, they just want to, like, I don't want to be perceived. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
In peace. Like, I just want a space where I can just be. And like, that's the thing. Like, our joy is policed. Our education is policed. Where we live is policed. Like, everything is so political about our existence in this country, and how the contrast of like loving this place because it's home, but also resenting, you know, the structural sort of things that are built into keeping you oppressed and keeping you in a certain space. And like, how do you truly find self-love? Like, how do you truly find home? And how like a lot, and how for like a lot of Black people, that's a nomadic experience. Because I've had this conversation with my older brother, who is somebody who I love dearly and who I admire a lot, because he's probably one of the smartest people I know, and we've talked a lot about this. And
Can I actually shout him out real quick?
Please do.
I was actually thinking about him this week, funny enough. Yes, because I had to remember there are still good Black men.
Man.
And
he's one of the ones.
I remember he was my model for when I had to do a bald fade for my barber license.
Oh,
and I remember just being
nice.
like, you know what? Because there were some people whose models didn't show up. So that means you would have to take the exam again.
Damn.
And you have to pay for these exams too. So I remember just like, man, I kind of took it for granted that he was so solid. I didn't even have to think about the fact
Like,
when he showed up.
Will he be there?
I just, yes. And the fact that I probably gave him a whack fade.
Right. And
you
he
know?
walked around with that thing like,
Yes.
all right then.
That was so so yeah, he was on my heart this week. So it's funny you bring him up because I was thinking about him.
Yeah, because so, you know, for me, I just think that when we're considering, you know, what it means to feel part of something, to feel included, especially in a country that you were born, you're raised, your parents were, their parents were. We've had the discussion about like, what does it mean to feel or to belong as a Black person? Like, where on earth can you be as a Black person and feel like you belong? And it's like, it's with each other. I think a lot of the time it just comes down to the community that you curate for yourself, because there's no religion, there's no flag, there's no culture, there's no ideology. There's not one thing that I think that connects Black people, because again, like, it's a diaspora, right? And it's diverse. It's not one thing. And so when we think about like, well, what does that look like? What does freedom look like? What does autonomy look like? What does Black success or whatever look like outside of the parameters of, you know, capitalism or just the American dream, if you will? And to me, I think that is the spaces that I make for myself. You know, like, I thought about like how you, and we haven't even gotten into the book, but this book has me in my feels, because I'm just like, this book to me was really like a love letter to, all of the work that gets put in before we even got here that we don't even recognize and that we're the beneficiaries of. And what I hope that like a day like Martin Luther King, his day, like that's what is highlighted, the sacrifices that are made. Like, I think about my kids, there's stuff that they don't have to worry about that we had to worry about, that our parents had to worry about, that their parents had to worry about. And I think that gets taken for granted. And so like this book reminded me that like from the fundamental sense of just revolution and refusal, that Black people have been on that bullshit since the beginning. Like we have never, I think the stories that we hear about our resistance are very tame, but it's like, I love that she highlighted throughout the book, just all of those many examples. So let's get into it.
First note was that the message we're giving is that self-defense is violence.
Yes.
Like this, always this question, when they're asking Angela Davis about violence. And it's like, you want to talk to me about violence? Like, why aren't we talking about all this white violence? Because that's where the majority of the violence is coming from.
Right.
But just to give like an overall framing of the book, because what's kind of cool is that it works as almost as an autobiography about the author, but also told with the background of other sort of diasporic Black people. Like especially Haiti.
Yeah, revolutionary
but
Black
the story
folks.
that really struck me, and like I said, once again, big anger, was the story of her great-great-grandmother who stepped on a rusty nail and was taken to a white doctor. And the doctor was like, I'll heal her, but your mama has to be my servant for life.
Yeah.
Like slavery.
Yeah.
And so that was the first refusal.
Yeah.
Like where she was like, I'm refusing
refuse.
that offer. And she was taken to her great-great-grandmother who did her best to heal her, and she survived, but she had a limp for the rest of her life. So a lot of times those are the options that were sort of given to Black Americans. You can either submit or limp.
Yeah.
And for a lot of,
I'll limp.
I kind of feel like, because we were talking about a lot of these Black rappers performing at the inauguration, and they've obviously taken the deal, and other people have chosen to limp financially.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of times your real options. You can either dance for these white people or limp.
Yeah.
And so, but she's like, but actually we have some other options.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to just roll over and take it. And to me, that was a story that didn't make it into the book that I always think about is Cecile. She didn't have a last name because we need legal standing for that. But she was a young girl in St. Louis who was purchased by a white man and raped, over and over again until she turned she was like bought, I think at 14. And then when she turned 18, she was like, I don't like this. Yeah. And she reached out to his kids because his wife had died. That's why he purchased her to be sort of a concubine. And she was like, I'm tired of this. Can you please talk to your dad, make him stop doing this? They're like, So finally she kills him. She was like, hey, don't come to my house tonight. And he did anyway. And she was waiting for him with the stick and let him have it. Bashed his brains out. Excuse me. And burned him in the fire. And, she was tried, found guilty, and hanged. Because they said, like, yes, women do have the right to protect themselves in these situations, but Cecile's not a woman.
Yeah.
She's a slave. So, I think the lesson, and we're sort of getting a lesson like, oh, don't be an angry Black woman. Don't be angry. Don't do this. But sometimes anger is warranted. Like that's an emotion that we have that is very powerful and should be exercised sometimes. So I think a lot of it was just sort of disappointment because I feel like a lot of Black men have been disappointing me lately.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Friends.
Mostly just because they're parroting so many oppressor narratives about trans people, about Jewish people. Like I'm hearing this out of the mouths of Black men and I'm like, why parrot you're just so quick to want to be like these white men.
And so, when you say that, so I'm going to pivot for a second and then we're going to get into the book because this is kind of broken down into 5 sort of very distinct topics throughout the book and stuff. First being revolution, but before we get into that, to your point, with the president's inauguration coming up, you mentioned that there are certain people performing for that, and I know people have opinions about that. And I do think what ends up happening, because we don't, I think the problem that, not the problem, but it's a conundrum of sorts, because it's like, because you're black doesn't instantly mean that we all have the same values. And I think that, in the same way that, like, somebody is, I don't know, like, so Nelly, I guess he was saying, like, I'm not doing this for the money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't need the money. This is an honor. Like, the presidency is a high office. And so, like, to be tapped to do this is an honor. And I guess my question for him would be like, well, are you saying that because you're so honored that you wouldn't take a paycheck for this? Is this something you do for free? Because that's something different. Mm-hmm. Now, I will respect it. Like, if you really just felt like, like, no, I grew, like, all my parents, everybody in my family are, I don't even know what would be the thing that you would say.
St. Louis.
I don't, listen, I don't know that man's
Cecile
life.
was from. Like, it's not a great place for black people.
Here's the thing, but also at the same time, I'm not shocked that black Americans are taking take the black part out, right? Like, you're assuming that black people have some moral high ground because of their history. A lot of black people don't fucking know their history. They don't learn it. They don't understand the impact or the gravity of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, especially as men, financial sort of security, financial advancement is the thing that makes them men, and that's what they're after.
Yeah,
so
to them, that's the pinnacle.
That's the pinnacle of it. And so to them, they can compartmentalize like all of this stuff because it feels so far away, because maybe you haven't heard the stories. Maybe you don't know how your great whoever's, like suffered under that, or you just feel like that was so long ago it doesn't apply to you. But it is disappointing in one way, but at the same time, I feel like I understand. I'm saying understanding in terms of I don't agree with it, obviously, but I do feel like I'm not shocked that there are black men who are going to take the check and the notoriety and the opportunity to be in front of these people and shuck and jive for them or whatever they got to do, because it's like this is just about financially securing my future for my people and fuck everybody else. And this isn't symbolic to me in any kind of way. Like, this is the job and I'm here to do it. So, I mean, as disappointing that as it is in the sense of like, you would hope that we can all get on the same page. We're just not, though. And I think that's the problem. Like, it's not a monolith. Like, people really have a diverse.
I brought up the fact that Snoop thought that Game of Thrones was a historical, like, historical fiction, and that's just something to keep in mind as far as to people's knowledge of history.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like,
he thought Game of Thrones was real life.
Let me see if I can find the thing where he was talking about, I love see how shit used to go down and blah blah blah. I'll try to look it up for the thing and include it in the notes, because I don't want to drag this out too long. But
no,
yes,
we don't.
I'm not, like I said, I don't look to entertainers to be my heroes.
Thank you. And
so that at the end of the day, these dudes are just entertainers.
Yeah.
Like,
dudes.
these are not who I look to. These are not my role models, and that's not who I look to.
And maybe keep that in mind when you're sort of putting people on pedestals. This is why I'm saying, like, to me, like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that it's like, I'm not putting them in a position in my life where their choices when it comes to stuff like this is taking me out, because at the end of the day, they're in their situations. They have to handle their situations the way that they feel fit. And when things are economically driven the way that they are, especially for men too, it's like, I mean, this tracks because they want to be, y'all know what y'all want to be. But anyway, like, so let's get down to the 5 topics of how this book kind of rolls out. So she posits that there is not this dichotomy of violence and nonviolence, because I think historically speaking, we tend to think about black resistance movements in terms of Dr. Martin Luther King,
like marching,
and marching, nonviolence, sitting in, getting beat down, getting sprayed, getting mauled by dogs, and then you have bullets and ballots. You have the Malcolm X sort of ethos where it's like, get your gun and we might have to pop out and show these niggas, And
or
so,
as I like to put it, we're nonviolent with people who are nonviolent with us.
Period.
I think that was like the best thing. It's like, well,
Yeah.
do you have a commitment to being nonviolent? It's like,
Do you?
Do you?
I do if you do same time and same time. Yeah. So I love that she sort of taps into that. So she gives us 5 different sort of segments. Revolution, which is highlighting transformative moments like the Haitian Revolution, the Jackson contracts, and just sort of arguing that the former represents true systemic change. And so she gives us examples of that through Nat Turner's like Rebellion, the American and Civil War and Emancipation. And so I really love this segment because for those of you who may not know, like I know I was a grown up when I learned about the Haitian Revolution. This wasn't something that I learned about in school.
First
shout
I
out
ever
to
saw
Haiti.
of it was Feast of All Saints.
Feast of All Saints.
That was my first
Oh, what a
introduction
book.
to the
What a book.
Haitian Revolution.
We didn't even get into that. We were just so enamored with Tina and our conversation
we didn't even
about
get into really
colorism.
but that was my first time ever even knowing that. Because I remember this is years ago. I had a family member who asked, and this was an in-law, so he was someone we would consider white. And his question was, well, why didn't, basically why weren't there slave rebellions? And I was like, well, do you think there weren't slave rebellions, or do you think you just weren't taught about slave rebellions? Like, which one do you think is more likely?
What did they say?
We'll just leave it there. But that's what it is. Like for people,
Leave it to
they
Kat to
really
disrupt the family gathering.
Well, to people, but for whatever reason, our minds are like that. We figure if we don't know about it, it doesn't exist.
It's not real, yeah.
As opposed to it's like, oh, I might have some blind spots in my historical knowledge.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, people go out of their way to not teach this.
Absolutely. I mean, even Nat Turner's Rebellion. Just
remember when they sunk that movie? There was a movie out about Nat Turner's Rebellion a couple years ago, and people sunk the opening because the actor had some allegations of sexual impropriety from when he was in college. And
no, I don't remember this.
Yeah, it was.
So we never got the movie?
No, the movie came out. It just had a terrible opening weekend because they tanked it and stuff like that. So that people, like I said, like a lot of this stuff where you think it's always so tricky because it's with the confidence of like, oh, I'm morally superior because I'm too good to consume this because it's not totally pure, as opposed to,
well, what are we? And again, like that's just sort of that hypocrisy of, Black people having to show up perfect, right? Like we see that right now with the fires and stuff in LA. Shout out to everybody in LA. Shout out to everybody out there who is dealing with, what I'm saying, like being displaced, your house, your life, your livelihood burning up before your eyes. No matter if you have resources or not, like that's a sad thing. And I feel like, the police chief or the person in charge of this whole effort is a Black woman who's queer, and she has all of these accolades. I'm going to try to find it so I can add it in the notes, but it's like right now the narrative is like, well, these are DEI hires and this is why the wildfires are raging in California. And if they just would have just let everybody come in and let these white people come in and do this, it's like, it's so disheartening because it's like, I hate when efforts for equity and inclusion get sort of boiled down to this.
And I want to reframe it because once again, our enemies are so good at marketing.
So good.
So they've turned DEI and wokeness into this ugly thing. So let's call it something else. Desegregation. Like things didn't magically just desegregate with MLK like we're taught. We are still fighting segregation, very much so. So when you hear all these narratives pushing back against it, I'm always like, so you like segregation, yes? And the answer is yes. These people like segregation. They don't want to say it. I like not having to compete against everybody. I like just because I like the narrative that they really buy into the myth of their own superiority, and it's a problem because you're not.
And that's, and I mean, because that's the thing, like, we want to, and I mean, and this isn't just a white person thing. People want to feel special, right? Like, we all want to feel so precious, like, oh my gosh, like, what I'm doing is so revolutionary. What I'm doing is so
It's
important.
like, look at me.
Yeah. Like, we all want that. And so, like, to me, like, that's a human thing. But for you to be great, for me to be, like, with somebody's knee on my neck, like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know? And you really do have to ask yourself, why don't I want to compete? You know, is it because
I
it's
know
going
why.
right?
I know why.
We know.
Sports. Y'all see what happened when y'all let
wow.
black people do sports.
But also to academics, because we can point to a lot of historical things where it's like if black women weren't involved in NASA, you know, we've got
Who are those two
Catherine,
little girls who did the Pythagorean theorem? I keep forgetting their names. I'm sorry, y'all. But it's like because they don't get enough media attention. Because had those have been any other they just did that on some cute high school shit.
Like, who was it? Oh, yeah, Katherine Johnson. I couldn't remember her last name. Yeah, like you were the human computer. You helped NASA put astronauts in orbit around Earth and stuff like that.
She had a whole squad of black women that they just kept in the back.
You don't hear about it.
And that movie, of course, Hidden Figures, I'm glad it got made or whatever, but the only reason it got made is because Kevin Costner got to play the white savior. That Kevin Costner character was completely fictional. Like, there wasn't no dude doing all that. They want to have that idea of like, oh, I'd be the nice white person. No, you wouldn't. Yeah. You'd be like just all the other people. Because like,
it's legal. It's not against the law.
I don't want to get true. So, well, why don't they just do what I did and just, you know, work hard? It's like, okay. Yeah. I would like also like for people who don't know, because I've just observed this in my own life. For people who are considered white in our country, it is much easier to get a job. Like, I have been astounded by the amount of jobs that white people that I've known are able to get with little to no qualifications. Wow. I mean, I'm just always like, wow. So they do have this idea. It's like, why don't you just do what I did? It's like, I can't.
Well, let's talk about it.
All right.
Because again, this woman who has all of these qualifications, let me see if I can find her. LA police chief. But also too, you can kind of see. Okay, that's not her.
That's the chief of police.
Right. I didn't mean. You can kind of see that in the picks that Trump is doing though for his cabinet. You know, we have the first lady of the WWF. You know, as what the. Is she the education person or something like that? Like, you're tapping people who have zero experience, who have no sort of background in anything, but yet we're supposed to believe that they're somehow qualified. Even Elon, like, how are y'all making a job for this man and creating a whole government sort of section for somebody like him who is this her? Yes, because she's female and LGBTQ. That is her. And it's like, how dare you? Because she has all the credentials, and that's the point. Kristen Crowley, you have all the credentials, you have the expertise, and somehow you being black and queer is the reason why people are that ain't her right there?
No, this one with Crowley right there. She's just white. She's a woman and queer.
Okay.
That's Crowley.
So you basically, because you're a woman, okay, the mayor, all of them though,
Karen
understand
Bass.
that they're putting them all in a basket of just like, this is what you want, this is what happens, things.
And then just things set on fire. It's like, it wasn't the decades of disastrous
Global
economical policies and ignoring that. And shout out to Canada and Mexico for helping out.
Man, it's just so sad. So yeah, I mean, I think that particular chapter with her kind of giving us, I mean, like, we get into the Haitian Revolution, which if you guys don't know about this, please, get into this book, but also like get into the Haitian Revolution and how monumental this was in the formation of the United States in general, and how Haiti even helped the United States get the large Louisiana territory. Like, the way that the landmass wouldn't be the way it was without the Haitian Revolution. And just the systemic sort of like, we're kicking y'all out of the economic conversation because you had the audacity to demand to not be enslaved, and just the tenacity of those folks and stuff like that. And so then she moves into force as the second of the 5 things that she names, and it's examining instances where self-defense and armed resistance are necessary to protect lives and freedoms. And she gives us sort of some examples of this, and one of my favorites was in Soweto. South Africa. And so this wasn't in the United States though, but there was an instance of these South African children being like disenchanted with the fact that like we don't have these same opportunities, and they're out here throwing stones, right? Like this is something that's just small, right? Like this feels like something that's not impactful, but that pushback ended up being sort of like it kicked off things. And so like if something small like school kids throwing rocks at power can shift the change, I feel like that is a hopeful message for, Black resistance, no matter how small that it is. And so, yeah, I don't know, like I just really loved these examples of like, yeah, you have to use force sometimes, it's not always sitting back and getting beat down. 'Cause I mean, again, like if you're meeting me with no force, I can meet you with no force. But if you're meeting me with force, what do I look like sitting back?
Yeah.
And you should expect that though. Like that's my thing. Like you should expect me to push back if you're pushing.
Well, I like that she brought up the fact too that a lot of the white violence goes down when they see resistance. Like when they feel that they can go into it with impunity.
Yes.
Then they're all for it. But as soon as they hear that pop, 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 then all of a sudden they scatter like roaches.
Yes.
So it's important to remember that it's like when dealing with bullies. It's very much, because this is a bullying situation. To me, I always wanted to be very clear, because bullying became a very big issue like in our schools and stuff like that. And it should be, because I hate bullies. I think it's important to realize though that teasing, like children teasing each other, isn't bullying. I don't love it, but bullying has to do directly with power. So if there's someone bigger than you and stronger than you and has more power than you and they're picking on you, that's bullying. If one of your little peers is doing something and you can like
snap back.
Yeah. That's just someone being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, and you have to just
That's
be
life.
like, yeah, that's life. So you're going to have to deal with that. But when you have someone who's in a position to really harm you and they're picking on you, that's bullying. And that's very much what white supremacy is. So, but when you have bullies, you have to show them it's like, okay, I know you think you have more power than me, but I don't have zero power.
Yeah.
I have a certain amount of power. And so like, yeah, I'm not going to be the only one who's getting messed up. Like if I'm going down, you're coming down with me.
Yeah. And I do think that that's kind of a hard thing too, because especially like in schools and stuff, like I know for sure it has been, I don't want to say contentious, but we've had some disagreements about like what that looks like in terms of like my children or children protecting themselves in a school setting where it's like, if somebody hits you, I mean, you're not going to be in trouble with me. I'm not, again, like if you're not the aggressor, my thing is like, we cannot continue to not address the inciting incident.
And we can't just concentrate on what my child did.
Yeah.
Like,
because they didn't just do this in a vacuum.
Out of nowhere. Yeah.
And I know that they didn't because I don't raise them like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't what, they're not out here just, bullying, which is just, using whatever, their power, their whatever to insult and to whatever.
It's also not what they observe at home either.
They don't see that.
Because I have to remind my daughter too, a lot of what you see when you see aggressive behavior, that is what people are experiencing at home. So don't internalize it. They're not really reacting to you.
They're acting out what they see.
Projecting what they have experienced in their life. That ain't got nothing to do with you. And so, but at the same time, if you're bringing it to my doorstep, because we need to put a button on this.
Because what you're going to understand is that you're not going to keep coming up to me thinking that I'm not going to say nothing to you.
Like,
and I can get my ass whooped all day. I mean, listen, maybe that's the end result of it, but like again, like you gonna have
put in some work too.
You gonna listen. It's just gonna have to go down, and we're gonna have to do this because when you come and you approach me, that there's gonna be I'm gonna meet the force that you're coming with me.
Consequences and repercussions.
Yeah, and I like that because I would never tell my kids. I said, well, just I know that they did that. No, we're not.
We ain't turning the other cheek around here.
I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to meet you where you meet me. And I love that she highlights that because I do think that is a place where, historically speaking, it just, it got us so far. But I mean, even Martin Luther King, even a lot of our sort of more nonviolent icons in history and at some point later in their careers were like, you know what? Maybe you need to smack a bitch. I don't know. Maybe a little force is needed. So
I know. It's very Professor Xavier Magneto.
Yes.
But even at the end of the day, Professor Xavier had a Glock.
I mean, again, you got to protect yourself.
Nothing else to use on himself because he knew he could be taken over and used as a weapon.
Wow.
Yeah, like
That's scary.
he was that about. Yeah, like that's real about it. Like one time. Anyway, we won't
Okay.
get into comic books because I know it's not
geek
your
stuff.
thing. But yeah.
But what about protection, friend? That was another, the third of the fifth sort of
I think
tenets.
the story that did have me close to breaking down was the young man who had to get the protection from his 90-year-old grandmother.
That was the one that got me.
Yeah.
That was one of the ones.
Where everyone was screaming. What was it? Do you have his name?
I don't have his name.
I didn't write the child's name down either.
I didn't have his name, but this story was sad. I mean, there are so many sad stories in here that I had to pause and be like,
This
oh
was
my
just
God.
some good old fashioned police violence. It was supposed to just be a traffic stop, and then they chased this man down into his grandmother's yard. The community comes out, starts filming it, but the cops would not take their guns off of him. Keep in mind, he's being accused of running a stoplight. So the guns seem a little okay.
A little?
And then the grandmama has to come out and literally put her body over him.
Oh my God. I was just thinking, because I mean, my grandma will be 90 this year. And I'm just like, I think about all the stuff that she's seen. Like, why do you still have to be doing this? It's so heartbreaking. It's like, and there's no contextualizing this for your children. It's like, they think you're crazy until they experience it, right? Like, they think you're crazy. They think that you're racist. Like, you might even get the note that, like, why are you always focusing on this? Why is it this? It's like,
because I don't want it to take you by surprise. Like, when it comes hard. I love that from Amber and Lacey's book. When she was talking about working at her first job, and her parents were like, are you sure you don't want to get a job on our side of town? And she's like, no, I'm going to work with my friend. It's going to be great. And man, no, it wasn't sweet.
It was not sweet.
You was working at an ice cream shop, but that shit wasn't sweet.
It was not sweet.
So so we want to, because to me that is the hardest part.
That's what it got me. I was like, oh my God.
Of racism is watching my children experience
It's
it.
so
I
sad.
hate it so bad.
So hard. So hard.
I had because we still live in a mostly white area, and I mean, my daughter's old enough now to understand what's going on, but when she was younger, she's just like, why are people being so mean to me? Like, the little kid, she came home crying one day from the bus because a kid told her she didn't deserve to live in this neighborhood.
What?
Yeah. And,
Where were they?
Huh?
Where are they?
What do you mean, where are they right now?
I'm fine, yeah. Oh, I'm just kidding, I'm not.
Right.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is like, I'm not going after this child because they're hearing this from their parents, right?
Okay, well, I'm whooping all y'all asses.
And I'm explaining that to her. I'm
Yeah.
like, because she's in her mind, she's thinking like, I don't want to move. I want to live here. This
Like,
is where
what's
I go to
wrong with
school.
me?
Like, what?
Yeah.
Nut. So now that, because she was 8 at the time. Now that she's older and she's like, okay, I've peeped game. I see it now. And to her credit, it's not like she hates white people. She just knows. Like, she mentioned the other day about how she got some little backhanded compliment from a teacher one time about how it's like, oh, I didn't realize you were so good at presenting, because they did a group project and she did the presentation. And I was like, man,
Like, that was just an impossibility. Like, in your mind, it just blew you away that she might be capable of that. That's crazy. Yeah, it's infuriating, and it's dehumanizing.
I told her, and I'm a talking back kind of chick now, because it's like, you can't do nothing to me. So I did do that when I went back to school. I'm like, I would have been like, oh, it's like, I'm surprised you're actually a half decent instructor. Like, how does that feel? You like that? You like that?
Yeah.
It's like, but really you're not, though.
Right. And
Like,
you're
there's actually
right.
probably a lot of people who are more qualified than you, and you just got the job because of who you are.
Yeah.
That was very much
They
when
hate
I was
that.
in college. Like, they talk about it and don't even realize it's a problem. So one of my instructors got a job at IPY, and then he just brought his 3 friends from his old job over. Like, so you didn't have to go through
Bring
a
the crew.
rigorous, and it's like,
Nepotism.
so, and would that happen, like, with any, because I trust and believe there were no brown and black professors.
No.
Or whatever.
But the thing is like, there's this perception that, like, if there are black and brown professors, they've gotten some sort of unfair advantage in the
Didn't earn
space
it.
of, didn't earn it.
Is what DEI.
That's what it actually stands for.
And you
then
have
also
no idea what I
affirmative
had to
action
do.
and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like,
You know what affirmative
Wow.
action is in response to?
Wow.
All the negative action
Yeah.
So much negative action and be like, well, you just stole a seat from a white person. It's like, no, from
Meanwhile,
my
your
point
granddaddy.
of view, I'm like, from my point of view, it looks like y'all stole about 60% of these seats because this is a language. It didn't come up in the book, but this is something. Did I take a screenshot of it? Because it was just so well put on a post on Instagram. Oh, here we go.
There it is.
This is from the official Black Knowledge account.
Okay.
We don't call ourselves minorities because it's just not it because it's not just inaccurate, it's insulting. Black people globally are the majority. To call us minorities is to buy into a narrative designed to diminish our power, reduce our significance, and make us seem less than we are. We've never believed we are minor to anyone or anything. We refuse to adopt a label rooted in oppression.
Amen.
And so I feel that's important because I hear that repeated a lot in our own communities where we're just so quick to take on minorities. It's like, no, just because that's visually what we see in Congress and government and every single company, like we're not represented very well. It's not because there's not enough of us. And that's why, like I said, that a lot of the families where we live like felt like, oh, we don't deserve to be there because it's like, why are you here? Like, why are you encroaching on our territory? Like, there shouldn't be this many of you. It is kind of funny to see, though. I do get a very perverse enjoyment.
It's like, I'm here.
Because there's so many now.
Yeah.
It's pretty great. And they're just like,
Oh my
they
gosh.
used to just be all white. And it was just better. But it wasn't better.
I mean, I don't know. Because if you think I'm having a great time infiltrating a space where, you know what I mean? Like, there's a certain level of work that goes into even having to be here and deal with this situation.
It's
so
not
that's
great.
another.
Like I said, but
it's
you're
not
hoarding
awesome.
the resources.
Yeah,
I have to come here to get access to resources.
Thank you. If it was equal everywhere, I would stay my ass.
Where
the hell?
hood.
Are you kidding me? Period. I don't want to have to be out here. I actually don't.
Getting touched on all the time.
Listen, and so for protection, a couple of little touchstones for that too was I want to talk about the role of Black church just quickly, because I do want to acknowledge, like, even though, you know, the reason why Black church is so important, I think, in Black culture is because it was like literally the only time you got a break from it, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the place one day a week where everybody is like you, and there's this sense of shared
well, it's the one place where white people wouldn't attack us.
Yes, that part.
Like I said, they were very happy to send us there because, once again, their version of Christianity was to keep us minor. So it's like they're happy to see us there hooping and hollering. And so, but like I said, at least we got some time away.
That's it.
And eventually able to organize, because the law was more than 4 people couldn't get together.
Thank you, because they legislate everything, which is why I'm like, we want to be left alone, mostly. And then the other thing too, I want a personal story. My great grandma was in a situation where she was a huge proponent of carrying a firearm. So she always had her 22 pearl handled pistol on her at all times. And so she was walking down the street one time and somebody decided they thought they were getting ready to mug her. Now, mind you, she was a very petite woman. She was maybe about 4'11". She was tiny.
Okay.
Tiny little lady, full of, what do they say? Vinegar and something?
Pep and vinegar.
Something.
Salt and vinegar, pep and vinegar.
All of it. She was full of all of it.
Apple cider vinegar.
Because she was an educator. She was super smart, very feisty, very educated, that kind of stuff. And so she had her hands in her pocket and her gun was just in her pocket. She was walking down the street and this person thought they were snatching her purse. And she shot that man through her jacket.
All right.
And I said, let's go. That's
all right now.
Listen, for a lot of Black people, you know, like staying armed, and it wasn't even a choice. Like, you had to protect yourself. And I think that sort of protection aspect scares a lot of the dominant culture, because, you know, your precious Second Amendment, when it comes to you, is all fine and good. But then when you see armed Black folks, you feel a little different about it. So yeah, just want to put that out there.
All right. And the laws change.
Yeah, it's different. It makes you feel different.
Because that's the other thing too. Because most of the women who are locked up is from defending themselves.
Yeah.
Like I said, like even St. Cecilia, like there are times when they give you a pass, but sometimes they'll be like, nah, nigga.
You're
like,
not a
who's that
person.
woman who got locked up for 25 years for just firing a warning shot?
I don't remember, but that sounds
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, like that's very, very real. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always self-defense is always framed as violence, where it's just like you're not really looking at what's going on before
Yeah.
I started flashing.
And you don't care
Nope.
either. So let's talk
Because
about
there's
that.
this idea that you're not a person wholly. Like if you're fully a person, you have autonomy and you get to defend yourself. But if you're just seen as an extension of some white person's property, like nobody's
no,
going
you
for
don't
that.
get
They'll put
to.
you down like a dog.
Period. Okay. And so the fourth tool that we have in We Refuse is flight. And so we're delving into acts of escape such as the Underground Railroad and refusals to accept subjugation. So this came in many forms, whether it was, somebody like James Baldwin fleeing to Paris.
Or the
for
Great
artistic-
Migration.
Or the Great Migration.
It's like, because I think that's how we ended up here.
period.
I think
Yes.
my family wasn't originally up here.
Tennessee,
It was just like,
Florida.
yeah.
Yep.
And it wasn't like this was the land of milk and honey. It was just like instead of 2 boots on your neck, maybe just 1.
Exactly. And it was just crazy too how like the Fugitive Slave Act came up a lot in this book and how even if you were a free black person, people could kidnap you and bring you back into slavery, and just how precarious your freedom was. You just never actually had it.
Yeah.
And
And shout out to Canada for not acknowledging the Fugitive Slave Act. They
Amen.
wouldn't send back people. But I feel like this gets left out of the narrative a lot too. Mexico also
Yeah,
would
same.
not. They were like, no, once these are citizens and they're not slaves. So we're not sending them back. So
Deal with it.
deal with it.
Yeah, just like you're not about to be the 51st state, Canada. Good for you, because what bullshit is that? And we're not getting ready to name the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
I actually
what kind of
I think
dumbass
someone
shit is
posted,
that?
it's like, man, Republicans don't want that because they never win another election
Fuck outta
again.
here. No, are you kidding? Right, there was a
Canadians
reason why.
are like, we have health care
Fuck outta
and
here.
paternity and maternity leave baked into our stuff. Like, we're not doing all that.
Oh my God. It's just sad. It's just very, very sad. But I just thought, you know what? When it comes to flight, we kind of talked about this before where you were saying like, flight to you was something that you felt like if you have to flee your home because it's, inherently violent or it's not a place where you can thrive, like that's the actual problem. Like you shouldn't have to leave. And I like how she framed this because sometimes flight isn't forever, right? Like, you think about people like Harriet Tubman, who, didn't lose a person on her journey and was willing to shoot somebody if you thought you was going to change your mind, because what you're
Mostly
not about
men.
to do is compromise this here operation that I have going, because I will shoot you dead right here, right now, which goes back to force and protection and all that kind of stuff. But also just highlighting the fact that like, at a certain point she left, but she did come back. And, sometimes it's for a time.
And her husband had remarried.
Oh, of course he did. Oh, of course.
He was like,
She be wearing pants now and stuff.
it's like,
You know what
I
I'm
didn't know if he
saying?
was coming back. She was cool about it though.
It's like, guess what? I got stuff to do. I'm
yeah.
married to my work. Okay, I got bigger things to do. But also, I just felt like, that was a really powerful message in, I don't know, like it highlighted to me just how like I think black people in the diaspora are nomadic. And that leads me back to that conversation I have with my brother of like, where do black people go to feel safe? Where do we go? Because if there is no one unifying sort of, I don't know, whether it's an ethos or a religion or a flag or whatever, like what is it that joins black people together that we can all agree on?
Beauty
that we
shop.
can looking nice?
I was just saying the beauty shop. Like is where people
That kind of
go
goes
to feel
into
safe.
black joy. That goes into
Yeah,
black joy.
beauty shop or barber shop, because that's usually a place where it's just us. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
which
we
feels
haven't
nice.
been able to go to like quote unquote regular, beauty, salons and stuff like that. You usually get an upcharge for textured hair and all that stuff.
Right.
So,
Or you just get fucked up in the game because they don't know what
like
they're
'cause
doing.
they do not teach how to do textured hair
Which
in
is
hair school.
weird.
It's not weird. It's very consistent with a pattern.
I hate it.
So, but I was happy when one of my faves showed up, Own a Judge.
I thought about that when she popped up.
Yes, I was just like,
friend.
ooh, yay. Because, man, George Washington was a motherfucker.
So tell the story for those. If this is your first episode, if you've not listened to our past ones, Kat's gonna tell you who Own
and
a
we
Judge is real
definitely
quick.
need to read that this year. That's
Okay,
my
let's do
goal.
it.
Yeah,
Let's
put
do
that
it.
for Black History Month.
Okay,
Own a
okay.
Judge, never caught. But
Okay.
yeah, she was one of George Washington's slaves. She was a tailor, basically. And she ran off, and he was trying to get her back. She must have been an earner. Because, and actually, I think she was actually Martha's slave. I think she was a dowager slave, technically.
Because he was kind of the poor guy. She was the one with the money.
She had a rich husband who died and then married George Washington. And it sounds like he wasn't necessarily really good with money. So when she ran off, because here's the thing, our American imagination about slavery was that, you know, you see people in the fields picking cotton, humming, that kind of stuff. There was also the domestic slaves who were lent out and were money earners for their masters. So you would maybe lend out a slave who was a woodworker,
highly specialized sort of.
Yeah. What do you call the metalworker people? What are those called?
Metalworkers.
Metalworker
people is what I like to call them.
I'm gonna think of it later. You know, think of the anvil and stuff. The people make the horseshoes, whatever. You can tell I just
blacksmith.
Thank you.
It finally came. Jesus. I'm like, I felt it. I felt the roll of
blacksmith and then tailors. So like you might lend them out for a couple months to another plantation owner, and then the master would get that money. So when she ran off, he felt like she was robbing him because she's like, she stole herself. You gotta love that term. I remember just being very struck by that when I read that book. Like, she stole herself. And I'm like, goddamn right she did. It's like, yeah. I stole my ass right up out of here. Right. And she had a really hard life, but she's like, I never regret it because she had a cushy-ass life with the Washingtons. You know what I mean?
Fuck that, though. That's what I'm saying. We rather, and that was the thing that I love that she illustrated in this, too, because, and this will kind of go into the segment of joy, which is the last segment of sort of the, you know, five things that we have at our disposal when it comes to refusing and dealing with white supremacy. But we just, I don't know, like, we want these spaces for ourselves where we can feel like we're not under like Handmaid's Tale. Like, I don't know, if you haven't watched was it on Netflix?
I want to say it was Hulu.
If you haven't watched the Hulu special, if you haven't read the book, please do, because it's
or
like
even
under
better
his
yet,
eye.
listen to our episode about it.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, because if you don't have hours and hours to devote to a new series, we get it. Fab understands. We understand your life. That's why we do this for you. Fab did that.
So you didn't have to do that. But yeah, just, I mean, going into that, like, just feeling like, you know, you're under this watchful eye constantly and stuff like that. Under his eye and all this. It's like, at some point, you know, I think what I love about Black people is that we tend to, even in like the craziest circumstances, we're always trying to carve out these spaces of joy for ourselves. We're always trying to curate these, whether they're relationships, spaces, whatever, you know, like, I mean, we're so unserious. When I think about, you know, even just some of the memes and stuff that pop up, even when it's about serious stuff sometimes, yeah, it's like, yeah, we're not deterred.
I think my note was Negro humor.
Yeah, it's just...
because she pointed out that maybe someone, she was on some program and a white person wrote into her to say she was wrong for laughing about racism or something like that. And it's like, okay, like, we were talking about that earlier too, about how for people who aren't funny and don't enjoy humor, they don't get it. Like, period, point blank. And it's like, Black people don't laugh at what's going on because it's inherently, or we're making fun of it. It's the absurdity of it all.
It's so
and the
stupid.
fact that there is no comedy without tragedy.
Period.
There are two sides of the same coin. So when you tell me something's not funny, you're also telling me it's not tragic.
Right.
And that's the truth of it all. So, like, yeah, we're gonna laugh at the stuff that makes us laugh. We're going to roast each other. We're going to roast you.
We're going to definitely roast you.
Because you're ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
like Barbecue Becky. Y'all remember her? 3 hours in, policing Black people using a charcoal grill, minding their whole ass business. And that's the whole thing. Like, if you just minded your business, though.
But you know what? Your business is probably super fucked up.
Yeah. And you're miserable. Like, that's the thing, too. Like, on
maybe
some level, it's like you're miserable
that day.
I don't give a damn.
Listen,
you're pitiful.
Withdrawal is a son of a bitch. And it's
you're
like,
miserable,
I'm gonna take my day out on you. And like I said, she showed up to the police, and then those waterworks went off.
You were right for 3 hours trolling.
Also, big shout out to the police who did not take her seriously.
Thank
we dragged
you.
the police a lot out here, but shout out to the
that
real solid
time.
ones who were like, Bitch, I'm not
Go
here for that.
home.
Not today, not the one.
Yeah.
Not, take that somewhere else, darling.
Yeah.
And I was telling you, I'm going to send you the little clip later. This just happened at Southwest where a white woman decided she wanted to call a Southwest agent a nigger bitch because her bag weighed too much. Like, she's in charge of that. And that's to anybody who goes after retail employees.
I didn't make this. And
didn't even tell you can't get on the plane. Didn't tell you can't take the bag. All they told
Shift
you,
the weight, ho.
put some of this stuff in one of your other bags so the plane doesn't crash. We don't do this rule for everybody.
Thank you.
It makes the plane weigh wrong, and then you could crash. Would you rather crash, dumb hoe?
And also, too, you have people who are lifting up your heavy-ass bags. So maybe we're making it to where, like, guess what? You won't have to lift bags more than 50 pounds. You're 64 years old. We're barely paying you any sort of fucking... You can't retire from this job.
Back brace.
Yeah.
You don't
for
want
your
that?
50th anniversary for working for the airlines. It's like these people don't get anything. They don't have any sort of like social security or anything like that in terms of their job or pensions and stuff. Like, why should they be lifting your extra heavy fucking bag? Bitch, you're not above the law. So yeah, I didn't see that. But also too, just the capacity for black people to take stuff like that and make it into a meme. The Bammy bra, it made me think about that too, and how like that, just that protection. Like honestly, it was all 5 of these sort of tenets joining together as one, where you have black people showing up for each other to protect each other. And then after it, you know what I'm saying, like just the memes and stuff and the hat being thrown up.
And swing.
Yeah,
or lift every chair and swing.
And the chairs being like a whole, like little earrings and accessories sort of like. And so that's what I love about us, because it's like no matter what you do, joy is not something you can steal away from people, because like she mentioned, you know, joy and happiness aren't the same thing, right? Joy is on the other side of just trauma, and it's something that ends up being a choice. And some people find that through their spirituality. Some people find that in their families and their relationships.
Some people find it in their art,
and some people find it in their art. And I think
or partying.
It's beautiful. Yes,
I love the story about the slave girl who would sneak out and get all done up, and they would just go out into the forest and basically have the club
because we're free. They're not looking at us.
Yes,
Leave
in
us
this
alone.
moment we are truly free. And just like having that, I'm like, wow. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
I love that for them, and that at least you got that stolen moment and the stuff you stole from white people to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, good
I like
for you
that.
guys.
Yeah, and like I said, and not even stole. Like you can't steal the fruits of your work.
Thank you. This was the cotton I picked. This was
Yeah.
100%.
It's like you got me fucked up. Like, is that, and because it's so funny, even in that way, it's like, well, they stole it from the white people. No, you stole my life from me. Is what
I loved
happened.
it. I loved it.
I like Amy Schumer. She's problematic in her own ways or whatever, but she did have a funny joke about her dad being racist one time and saying something about how, like, look out because black people steal. And she was like, Dad, white people stole black people.
Thank you. So what you mean?
What are you even talking about?
Right, please stop. I love it. Some other notes about just black joy in terms of celebrating, you know, ourselves. Let's see, what were the notes that I had?
Actually, though, can we take a break?
No. I'm gonna get these out real quick.
Okay.
Take a break. Real quick. So what was the thing? Oh, because we talked about Dave Chappelle earlier, and I was thinking about like materialism, capitalism, and how like black joy, like there is sort of a line where it's like, yeah, that's not funny. I think that's what happened to Dave Chappelle when he was in the Chappelle show. Like he was like, I don't like the direction that this show is going, and they're offering me $50 million to basically, like, I'm not sure that they're not laughing at me. And that was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost kind of like the conundrum of like the Snoop Dogg thing. Like at a certain point, like, when are you a clown though? And are you okay with that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, you know, I'm not necessarily judging people super harshly. Like, I have my thoughts about it, but at the same time, I understand how that happens, especially in the culture that we have here in America, where capitalism first. But I that's what I admire about him. Like, at a certain point, it was like, I'm not sure that you're not laughing at me. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to be the brunt of the joke. You know, my blackness or my struggle or whatever it is. Like, and him just stepping away. So like to me, it was like resistance in the form of like fleeing in a way, and also to just the refusal of like you stealing my joy. You're not gonna get to take something from me that I feel like I'm not willing to give, and so that can be hard, especially when it's a $50 million check. Like how many people are really, and honestly, that's a position of privilege, because not everybody has that luxury to say like I can walk away from that, and so that's why I don't want to.
I'll go back to doing open mics. If I have to.
I'll go back, and
because
so
at least I'll be free.
And so like to me, yeah, it's like that. It's just like feeling like, okay, I just want to be able to do me, and that's the biggest accomplishment that any Black person can have really in this country, is just to exist in their own skin, create their own joy, curate their own space, whether it comes from the art or just whatever. So yeah, so now I think if you want to have a break, friends, I'm done on my soliloquy, and we'll be right back. Okay. All right, guys. So we're back from the break. Welcome back, you guys. So let's wrap this up, friend. This was a meaty book. I feel like I still have so much to say, but what I will say is that this book, it really got me together. I think this was a really great way to start off the year.
I'm glad.
And to reflect on the past and the efforts that have been made to, for me to be the person that I am, and for me to have just sort of the ammunition that I need to move forward and to arm my kids with the knowledge and the storytelling and the joy and the art and the resistance that it is to just be a joyful Black person in this country sometimes. Like, that's a revolutionary act in and of itself. And just expressing gratitude for those spaces that I've created for myself and that the people I love create for me. So
I'm very
it just
grateful.
was everything I needed. And so I think we should rate the book, friend. What do you think?
I'm giving it a solid 5 out of 5 Black Fire Fists.
I like it.
Oh, especially for the story about how it almost didn't even come to be.
Ooh, that was a good
That
one.
was deeply relatable content. She almost lost the thumb drive, y'all. And she was about to be like, ain't gonna be no book.
Thank you. Because after you put in all the work. And it was a beautiful allegory for just how Black people feel in general. It's like, we just don't even get credit, and how you just get tired sometimes. It's like, damn, I put in all this work and I'm not being recognized for it. Is it worth it? So thank you, Kellie Carter Jackson, for this book. This was what I didn't even know I needed. Thank you, Kat, for recommending this book. And as for me, I'm giving it 5 out of 5 rifles, bitch.
Whoa.
Fuck out of here. Because we
around and find out.
refuse. Okay?
Yes.
Y'all can play in our faces
Step
all
on
you
this
want,
Porsche
but
if
you
you
won't.
want.
I mean, like, you're not going to steal my joy. I'm still going to rejoice in who I am and where I came from. And my head is held high. And so I want to.
One more thing, real quick. Beyonce Knowles Carter. Been hearing over and over again that she's a propagandist.
Okay.
That her performance at that halftime show on Christmas.
It was propaganda? Okay.
It's being alleged.
Oh. By whom? Them. Okay. I mean, okay. That's what they always do, though.
Like, propagating what, though?
I don't know, man. They'll look fly in all white. The fuck? That I'm that bitch. I can sing. I can stunt on these hoes.
I don't know.
Excuse my language, guys. Excuse my language.
Maybe we spin the wheel, because I haven't read up on it yet. I just heard it
Well, we can get
NPR.
So if y'all want to hear what we think about that, maybe that'll be on our next Patreon.
Yeah, we'll bring that
out. Talk about that. Sign up for our Patreon, you guys. The Fat Podcast / patreon.com. Pull up on us there. Bonus content. We get real there.
You got what you like.
And no, I haven't really heard that, but that doesn't surprise me, because anytime Black people are reclaiming the shit that it was always theirs, it's always okay, great. Sure. Okay. I'm unmoved. Okay. Did you hear Roseanne's new song?
Roseanne Barr?
Bitch.
She can't sing?
Hold up.
Oh, God.
Listen, you did this. You wanted to do this.
Actually,
you said one more thing.
I did. This is my fault. While
fault.
you're doing that, I'm going to spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel.
All right. Next week, we're taking a break from books, and we're going to take it back to Netflix. specifically Ali Wong's Single Lady.
Yay.
You put this on my radar. I didn't realize she divorced. And so I think it's gonna.
No, keep talking.
I think it's gonna be a very interesting, because I'm a single lady myself.
Yeah.
So I think it'll probably be some very deeply relatable content.
Yes, and I feel like it will be a great palate cleanser for this book, and just lean into some art,
Some joy.
Yeah, because that's
some
revolutionary.
ha-has.
Yeah, it's revolutionary, and Ali Wong is funny too. So I mean, I'm very into it, and because you wouldn't hush, we're gonna have to look at this now, friend. Okay,
Tom
this is
McDonald.
Tom McDonald and
Who
Roseanne
he?
Barr.
Is he famous?
It's called Daddy's Home. I don't listen here. Damn
Daddy's
it!
Home.
All right,
Is this
guys.
about Donald Trump?
She got braids.
Double back, couldn't take another 4 years. That's a wrap, I can take a bath in your tears. That's a fact, you got lipstick all on your beard. You're a man, that is cap,
Cap.
You pretending you're accepting, that's an act. You hear pat. If you want our freedom, come and take it back. Bet you can. We won, you mad, it's done, too bad. Ooh, so sad. We won, you mad, you cry, we laugh, we wave the flag.
They try to cancel me and say that I'm a racist. Got a mean hook, they can't get me with that jab. Trying to take away my right to go and save this. Well,
This is physically hurting me.
Good.
Thank you.
They try to turn Becky into Dan, friend. Okay, that's enough. Y'all get it. So, I mean, friend. So you guys are appropriating all of the.
Hard.
I mean, like, my thing is like, if y'all are so American and so white and y'all so mad about black people, why are you doing cosplay? Like, I don't understand why you need to pap, no cap. Why y'all doing that?
That was really
It's just, you guys
gross.
are, it is. And it's like, y'all are so, and that's the thing. That's where, honestly,
And
this is where my
ugly.
joy comes
Because
from.
remember, like, how pretty Beyonce's show was,
God, it was
and
so
how
nice.
gorgeous everyone
But
in
it's
that
propaganda,
was?
though.
And that wasn't? Okay.
So just.
And those people were in. This is the thing that strikes me the most about his supporters. They are incredibly ugly people.
Unattractive.
Like
In
very-
every way.
In every way. But I mean, in the very
But specifically
in the
ugly,
deep and
though.
superficial ways too. Like, I always try to warn young white people, like, really look at your future, because you don't have to look like that. Like, you could, like, you'll notice, like, people who, for one, pay
Yowza.
attention to science. They use SPF. They know their SPF.
Mm-hmm.
And they know what, like, they that's part of good
We
decision making.
moisturize.
If like good bad decisions beget other bad decisions. I'll just say that. And then you start to look like your decisions.
Oof.
Your body belongs to you.
It does, you
Smooches.
guys. Sorry about that. Had to do it. That was Kat's fault. If you don't like it, holler at her. Also, you guys, please come back next week. We love you. And yes, happy MLK Day. Hopefully, you guys do some things that you love, because that's all we've got, guys. I've been saying that. Just tap into the community. Tap into the things that make you feel good. Life is short. Love you. Bye.
Before we go, we must give thanks to Urban Nerd for providing our music, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers.
Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again, and until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.